Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're tackling something that literally dictates almost every single aspect of modern human life. Money is an absolute addiction, isn't it? I mean, it's this universal language spoken and understood by absolutely everyone, from a local street vendor all the way up to a high-powered CEO sitting in a penthouse. It is the ultimate communicator. It's the sole reason people who used to live in forests are now sitting in cloud-touching skyscrapers, and how we possess vehicles that can actually run faster than the wind. Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever actually stopped to just ask yourself, from where did a simple piece of paper get so much power? Really think about it for a second. Inherently, a banknote has zero value. It's literally just a blend of paper and ink. And yet, this totally valueless piece of paper has the power to dictate the value of everything else in your life. It rules the modern world. So how exactly did we get here?
Well, the answer is kind of simple, but honestly, it's profoundly impactful. Money is not just a piece of paper. It's an addiction and a deliberately complicated illusion. And the reason it's an illusion? Because the whole system is intentionally designed to be complex. It keeps everyday citizens totally trapped in the daily grind, operating within this massive system without ever really fully understanding the rules of the game.
All right, let's go back a bit. Section 1, from barter to gold. You see, every phase in the evolution of exchange basically solved a really specific problem for its time. Think about 10,000 years ago during the barter system. If you had rice and you wanted sugar, you had to physically go out and find someone with sugar who specifically wanted your rice, which, let's face it, is a logistical nightmare. So jump to 5,000 years ago and we shifted to commodity money, things like cattle, grain, or liquor. But lugging a giant cow to the market or watching your hard-earned grain just rot away was hardly ideal. Plus, measuring exact value, pretty much impossible. We desperately needed something durable, which eventually led humanity to introduce universal metals, like gold and silver coins, right around 2,500 years ago. Moving on to Section 2, the first paper currency.
But as always, humanity stumbled into a brand new problem. Carrying bags of heavy gold everywhere was super inconvenient, not to mention it invited the constant threat of theft. Enter the goldsmiths. They offered to keep people's gold safe in exchange for a simple paper receipt. And soon enough, people realized, hey, it's way easier to just trade these paper receipts for goods instead of hauling physical gold all over town. Everyone was operating on this baseline trust that if there was a receipt, there must be gold backing it up. But then human greed kicked in. The goldsmiths noticed that almost no one ever actually came back to claim their physical gold. Realizing the receipts themselves had essentially become the money, they started printing fake receipts, paper with absolutely no real gold backing them up whatsoever. And just like that, the world's biggest ongoing legal scam was born.
And this brilliantly illustrates the origin of the IOU. Literally, IOU. Those paper receipts issued by early goldsmiths functioned as the world's very first paper currency. Those original gold safekeeping shops, they were the world's first banks. And those printed receipts? The very first banknotes. Which brings us to Section 3, how banks create currency. Now, you might assume a bank just takes your deposits, keeps them nice and safe, and maybe lends some out for a tiny little profit margin, right? Actually, scratch that. The reality is a much, much bigger game. Now, what's really interesting here is the seemingly simple number, 1,000. Just imagine you walk into your bank tomorrow morning and deposit 1,000 rupees. Let's follow exactly how that simple, innocent deposit gets manipulated by the modern banking system. Thanks to something called the fractional reserve rule, the bank keeps a 10% cash reserve, so they hold on to 100 rupees, and they immediately loan the remaining 900 rupees to someone else. But watch carefully what just happened here. If you pull out your phone and check your banking app right now, you still see 1,000 rupees. But the borrower, they check theirs and see 900 rupees. Both of you somehow have purchasing power at the exact same time. The bank only has 1,000 rupees in actual real cash, but simply by typing some numbers into a computer, they have created an extra 900 rupees of virtual currency totally out of thin air. And the crazy part? The game doesn't even end there. That borrower isn't taking that 900 rupees just for fun. They're going to spend it. That 900 eventually gets deposited into yet another bank account. That next bank then reserves 10%, which is 90 rupees, and loans out the remaining 810 rupees. Then that gets spent, deposited, and loaned out all over again. Through this absolutely incredible multiplier effect, a bank miraculously transforms your initial 1,000 rupees in hard cash into up to 10,000 rupees of entirely virtual currency. Which leads us to a pretty shocking reality about global bank balances.
Because of this fractional reserve system, banks are operating entirely on mathematical probability. If you were to add up every single bank account balance in the world and it equaled 100 rupees, less than 10 rupees actually exists in real physical cash. More than 90% is literally just virtual digits you see on a screen. Think about that for a second. If just 20 to 30% of people decided to withdraw their money at the exact same time, the whole system would completely collapse. They simply do not have all your money.
So let's get into Section 4, currency versus real money.
So the absolute crucial point here is understanding the true difference between these two terms. People use currency and money interchangeably all the time, but they are fundamentally different. Currency is merely a trust-based medium of exchange. Bundles of 1,000 rupee notes lying in a safe can literally turn into worthless pieces of paper overnight if a government simply decrees to reject them. Money, on the other hand, is a valuable asset with real intrinsic value. A physical gold coin lying in your house will retain exactly the same worth no matter what any government in the world says or does. Currency is backed by trust, real money is backed by its own inherent worth. Now, during a massive global crisis, this distinction becomes absolutely critical. Sure, you might see influencers touting digital gold bonds to save a few percent on taxes, but let's be totally honest here. You cannot buy a year's worth of physical rations from a local shop by waving a digital bond certificate at them. When digital systems completely halt, only real goods and physical gold are universally useful. True survival and security depend on holding physical, intrinsic assets, rather than relying entirely on virtual tokens. With even a small amount of physical gold at home, a family can actually manage when the digital illusion fades. So I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought. This paper is only about trust, and the world is stable on trust only. I think that perfectly summarizes the extreme fragility of modern wealth. All those digits on your screen, all those paper notes in your wallet, they're really just a collective illusion held up by a super fragile web of trust. The very next time you look at your bank balance, I highly encourage you to question what you truly hold. Is it money, or is it just currency? Thanks so much for diving into this fascinating explainer with me, and definitely keep questioning the systems around you.